What's going on, Chaotic Nation? It's your boy Chaos here, and what if I told you that you have had the whole Pokemon timeline wrong? Many other creators have covered this topic by taking in-game NPC information to create a timeline based off of events found out throughout the storylines of this Pokemon franchise. But today, I will be challenging this theory about the timeline with my own ideas on this topic. So sit back and relax as we enter the world of Pokemon. Now, what got me interested in this timeline theory was a video by Birdkeeper Toby and Almighty Arceus. I know many others have also contributed to potential timelines, but I will be specifically referencing Toby and Arceus' video as I am the most familiar with that video, as it's the one I've watched the most and also based a lot of my facts in this video about. So it will be my source video. If I ever reference a source video throughout this video, I am referencing that video by Birdkeeper Toby and Almighty Arceus. So make sure you guys check that out in the description down below after this video is done, as well as all my other sources that will be down there as well if you want to check those out and see where I got some of my information from. So my theory states that Black and White occur at the same time as Generations 1 and Generation 3. Now, for the references to Generation 1, I am primarily going to be focusing on Fire Red and Leaf Green versions, but some of the other ones do make a way into this theory, just so you know. This would place also that Black and White 2 would be 2 years after those events, while the rest of the timeline would remain relatively the same, opting to cut out that whole 13-year span in between Black and White and Black and White 2 and Gen 6. The ideas behind this theory begin with a camper girl who you can find outside of Rock Tunnel in the Kanto games. She states that what she wants or wishes for is a pink floral Pokemon, which we now know as Munna, since it fits this description better than any other Pokemon we have to date. It would make sense that this person wishes for this Pokemon if Unova was around and the Pokemon in that region were discovered around the same time as the Kanto games. This also makes sense due to the connections with the lineage between Drowsy and Munna in their common ancestry. Unova and Kanto also share another connection, being the only games to really focus on using their region-specific Pokédex, as seen in every Kanto game, as well as Black and White. As we see with most of those games, a National Dex is added to the post-game to allow you to catch the foreign Pokemon. This could simply be just the time period where they've started introducing these new species into the region, so now they're able to be caught. We also see that the Pokédex are out of order for some of the games. Like, if you take a look at Heart Gold and Soul Silver, we see that Pokemon like Crobat is with its other evolutionary line during the Pokédex until we get to the National Dex. And this is just probably just because how Professor Oak made the cataloging system that takes start in the Kanto region and goes around the regions collecting all the data and putting them into the Dex. And probably since these Pokemon were found first in like Johto or a different region like Sinnoh, since there's a lot of those Pokemon, that's probably where they're going to be put in the Dex, which makes a lot of sense. Oak is just asking you at the beginning of your Kanto journey to collect information from the region while he works on gathering information in the other regions, and he most likely sends the other professors of the region Pokédexes to help out, or information about how to make a Pokédex to capture this information, so that way he has it for the National Dex that you get at the end of the games. It most likely makes sense that he would be working from a region to region basis, gathering information on the regions that are most likely closer to the Kanto region, so that makes sense why Johto is next, since it is so close. It literally is connected to Kanto, so it makes sense that would be the next Pokédex in the National Dex. Now, the biggest issue with this theory is something that was heavily used in my source video, which was the character of Caitlyn. As you guys may know, Caitlyn functions as an Elite Four member in the Unova games, but also functions as a Battle Castle trainer in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, and Pokemon Platinum. Caitlyn's official age, according to Pokemon websites like Bulbapedia, state that Caitlyn is 14 at the time of the Battle Castle stint, but her age ranges in 10 years in Black and White and Black and White 2. The range isn't essential at its face value, but it simply shows that the events of Black and White and Black and White 2 happen after Generations 2 and 4. Now, this obviously is an issue when you're trying to prove that Generations 2 and 4 came 3 years after Black and White and a year after Black and White 2. Now, what would be a logical explanation for this issue? Merlin's beard, I've got it. If you look at the character designs for both Caitlyn, we see a difference with the hair color. Now, yes, hair dye would be a thing to keep these in these games, especially as we have seen in the character customizations of the Kalos games, but it's really only used in that region. Now, while looking at hair pigmentations, conclusions have been drawn that darker colors tend to be more prominent than lighter colors, and hair lightening is much, much rarer than hair darkening. Thus, a way to explain this is that Battle Castle Caitlyn is the daughter of Elite Four Caitlyn. They just have the same name. But would this even work within this timeline? Well, actually, yes. The official age of Caitlyn in Black and White ranges from about 17 to 27 and 19 to 29 in Black and White 2, which means that this is feasible. Now, if we do the math, Elite Four Caitlyn would be at her oldest age in the games, which is 27 and 29 respectively, meaning that she would have to be 16 at the time of her daughter's birth. Now, for you youngins, that might seem a little too young for most people to be married and have kids, but that wasn't the case a few decades ago. It was very actually common a few decades ago for that to be the case, because most kids nowadays wait till their 20s, early 20s to have kids and start settling down, but that was not the case back then. Often 16 was the marrying age for young women, and Caitlyn would have been one of those girls who got married and had a kid at age 16. This was very common in war times, especially since men and women were most likely left to deal with the war, and they wanted to enjoy their lives and have a life to come back to before potentially giving up their life for their country. Why then is Caitlyn at this battle castle then? Well, as you guys know, Pokemon trainers usually begin their journeys around age 10, so Caitlyn would have left for her journey a year before the events of Black and White happened. Well, we do know that Caitlyn has psychic powers, and that could be the reason why she is at the Battle Castle in Generations 2 and 4, because Dirac is battling so that Caitlyn can watch and learn about using and controlling her psychic powers under the watchful eye of Cynthia, since she is guiding Caitlyn, since she's a good friend of the Elite Four Caitlyn. Now, other things mentioned in my source video were about technology and the vast difference in Unova from other areas. And if we just take a look at the real world for a minute, we can easily see that this really is not an issue. Many places have more advanced technology than other places. Take places like North America, the European Union, East Asia. Those places are more advanced than some places like South America and Africa. It would make sense that some regions would have better technology available to them at this point in time, which could be why there's an advanced sharing of information of technology with the Pokédex from Professor Oak, trying to learn from different regions and just collaborating with technology to share the technological wealth around with others. The World Tournament was also another concern, and this probably would actually happen. The World Tournament most likely functioned as a way to unite the different regions of the Pokemon world together. There would be no holograms, as that technology is not available at the time of Black and White 2. It is first seen in Pokemon X and Y, which would be a few years later. It would make sense that the gym leaders and the Elite Four members and even the champions would attend this event as a way to promote their region and also to be a figurehead for the unity among the Pokemon world. Gym leaders and Elite Four members would simply leave their responsibilities to gym trainers or other staff at the Pokemon League. Obviously, this has happened before, as we have seen Jasmine in Sunyshore City, and we've seen various Sinnoh Elite Four in the Unova region hanging out at Caitlyn's house. Now, if we look at Unova, we can see the ex-Team Rocket member living in Unova, which obviously is a big theory. This obviously is problematic for the presented timeline for you. But why it does make sense that this would actually happen if Black and White came after Generations 1 through 4, it can still make sense in my timeline. It would appear that this man is somehow confused about his past, whether that be he has some mental disease like dementia, or he believes that his life he's watching on the news is actually real. Or he might be trying to impress you since he is a biker trainer class. Who knows? Maybe he's just trying to intimidate you, make you think he's a bad ruffian. Now, what about the Generation 6 onwards? It's something we haven't talked about yet. Well, those games are just a hair more difficult to place. According to the source video, Generation 6 is 2 years after Black and White 2. which would place them 1 year after Generation 2 and 4 in my timeline, and Gen 7 would be 2 years after that. Now, it's a bit hard to figure out how this works since several characters make cameos in these games, such as trainers in the Battle Tree and the Wandering Grimsley, Dexio, and Cena. Grimsley actually would be about the right age with this theory. He does look a little bit older, and they do say he's about roughly 2 years older than he is in Black and White 2, which actually makes a pretty good sense since it's about 4 or 5 years difference. So it would actually make sense that Grimsley would be his age, and you know, people get white hairs faster than some other people. It just happens. Blue and Red, however, appear to be much older. They look a lot older. And our timeline puts it max at Gen 1 to Gen 3, Gen 5, and Gen 7, that to be a 6 to 7 year time difference. Meaning that Red and Blue would have to be around 16 or 17 in the Alola region. Now this is a conundrum. If we look at the information onto Red, it seems that his age really hasn't changed. It's changed quite a what? It's changed. In the different releases of Red, Blue, and Yellow, Red can have a different age, if you do not know this. In the original Japanese releases, Red is 11, making him roughly 18 at the end of our timeline, which is roughly about the age predicted for this character. I say predicted as we have no clear indication of his age, meaning that he probably would fit into this timeline as well as Blue. Also, if we look at the World Tournament and Mount Silver, Red uses his same team in Heart Gold and Soul Silver as he does in Black and White 2. This could show the changes and advances in Red's team building and structure, as he seems to have a slightly more advanced and more coverage moves on his Heart Gold Soul Silver team than in his Black and White 2 team. Now we look at Wally. Now Wally is the biggest conundrum of this entire theory. How does he fit into the timeline? Well, Wally has been an issue for many theorists, and often because of him, theorists opt for the alternate timeline theory, one with Mega Evolution and one without. So I'm just going to copy their idea on this one. Yeah, actually I'm just messing with you. Wally actually fits into my timeline as well. If we take a look, Wally is roughly 10 or 11 in Hoenn, and since this is the beginning of the timeline, he, like Red and Blue, would be roughly about age 18 in Alola. While he does look very similar to his Oras depictions, he actually fits in by the same way Red and Blue do, since they have just aged about 6 or 7 years. My sources set his minimum age at about roughly 20 years old in Alola, which again is pretty much a couple years difference from where he would fit in with the timeline, so it would make sense. And they aren't sure, so it's a guess that his age is about 20. Thus, he would fit into the timeline. No alternate timeline needed. Well, that's all I have for this theory video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have anything to contribute to this theory or questions about it, please let me know in the comment section down below. A big thank you to all of my sources. You guys can check that down in the description below if you want to. And if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like to show your support. Subscribe for more Pokemon videos to come. And I will see you guys next time. So until then, my name is Chaos and I'm signing off. Stay safe, and as always, burn it up.